Instagram peeps. Good evening, good evening, good evening. And now that we are live on, there we go. Few requests, go live with Andrea. And now that we are live on LinkedIn, I want to see what's up to my Instagram to my LinkedIn peoples as well. How are you all doing? I'm getting a little bit of an echo.
Yes.
Yeah, you have your headphones here with you?
Yes.
Nice. All right.
One sec.
Sure. So, Allison, good afternoon. On LinkedIn, good afternoon, Allison. On Instagram, sorry, good afternoon, Allison. All right, welcome. Thanks for joining us. We're just doing our setup here on. All right, Victoria. Victoria, how are you doing?
Feedback gone, right?
Yes, feedback is gone. You just need to set up your stuff now so we can see it properly. All right, so for my LinkedIn folks, good night, and we are having a discussion on compliance. And for my folks on Instagram as well, good night. We are having a discussion on a very important, non-sexy topic as it relates to how we are building our business. So we are speaking about compliance for those of us who are building our businesses, especially for those of us who have these nice, fancy things called limited liabilities. Yes, yes, yes.
Yes.
Let me give it to you like this, right? If I had met Andrea before, I might have opened my business a totally different way. I'm being
A
really,
totally
really honest
different
with you.
way.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
So if that is food for thought for anybody, right? So the discussion that we're having today, guys, is really along the lines of compliance for entrepreneurs. And what does that really mean as an entrepreneur? Why is compliance important? Right? Because of the fact that it could negatively impact our businesses. So if it is that you guys are seeing me for the very first time, my name is Lyndon Braffett. And this lovely lady that I have here with me is
Andrea Ragoo,
oh
ATR Business Solutions.
right. Right. And I always like to give this little background that I love doing work with Andrea, and Andrea has really become um, uh, uh, that confidant that I would normally share particular ideas and stuff with. She is also my company's accountant, right? And since the first day that I met Andrea, I have always said to her, yo, you share so much valuable information that I needed to know some of this stuff before I really opened my business. And now that I've already opened the business, excuse me, now that I've gone ahead and opened the business, there's certain things that for us, like even if it's valuable for me, guys, I'm pretty sure that it's extremely valuable for you all, right? Because there are so many things that I didn't know that I'm most certain that you all need to know, all right, about being compliant and growing your business. So Andrea, we'll get straight into it.
Yeah.
So let me give you all a little bit of additional preface. Compliance, really and truly as to what that is. So Andrea, we went through an exercise recently where you asked Jared and myself, and then you did for sales as a profession, and then you also did work for the OPAAT-SWY side of things as it relates to making sure that our business was compliant, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I want to ask you, what exactly is compliance, right? That entrepreneurs should be paying attention to. So let's start with exactly what that is in the world of entrepreneurship.
So, compliance, first of all, let's just say what compliance is generally, right? Compliance is just the need to comply with maybe a piece of legislation, right? To
Mhm.
comply with a rule. That's just the general what everybody complies with, right? So, compliance with a rule. In the case of entrepreneurship, it's compliance with regulatory authorities within the commercial space that you operate in,
Right.
right?
Okay.
So, across all businesses, there are some common ones. and then you'll have ones that specific to industries. So, for example, um, OSHA. OSHA is
Right.
across the board, right? But in manufacturing, oil and gas, that type of thing, it's more pertinent there. They'll have a lot more
Right.
things to comply with.
Right.
Um, Similarly, across, BIR is across the board, but different levels depending on the type of registration or depending on what you do, right? The type of
Right.
business, the size, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But generally speaking, what it means for entrepreneurs is having to understand what exists in the space that you are in, right?
Mm-hmm.
So typically speaking, I am ATR Business Solutions, so I will speak more like BIR, legal affairs, etc. But I always like to tell people, still be aware of what is relevant to you, because there could
Right.
be something that very particular to your industry that you might not know. If you operate in a manufacturing space, um, Bureau of Standards might be relevant to you.
Mm-hmm.
Am I still live? I don't think I'm live on Insta anymore.
Something is up with Instagram, but let's
Yeah,
continue. Let's
yeah.
see what happened in there. If there's anything, you continue, and I will just restart the live. Go ahead.
So, you know, always try to understand what is particular to your space, right?
Right.
Because there might be something in there that, nobody else might have to do. Like I was giving an example of manufacturing. If you're manufacturing, you may have to comply with Bureau of Standards. You may have to, file some kind of inspection report or something like that.
Right.
So, but in the broad sense, that is compliance.
All
It's
right.
the need to comply with a rule or regulation that relates to your business.
All right. So why would that be? So okay. So I want to ask you why would that be important? But then I also want to follow it up with like should it be something that we pay attention to before um we open our business?
I would say yes. I would say yes, because like you say, when you said that how if you had met me before,
Mm-hmm.
you may not have maybe incorporated,
Right.
and I say yes because the levels that you need to comply with vary, right? And you have to be sure that you're ready for it,
Right.
right? The cost of there's something called the cost of compliance, right? And simple cost benefit analysis, right? The
Mm-hmm.
cost of doing this, on your small little business, might be so great that you could have achieved compliance with a different registration, for
Right.
example, right? And you may not have complicated things. So I'll give a very simple example. I had a conversation with someone recently, and the person was a mini mart and ended up with a partnership. And I asked the question, so, but why did you do that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and maybe not understanding what was required, now ended up with a partnership between herself and her husband, right, on this mini
Right.
mart. And I said, well, to accomplish what you wanted to do, which was to open the mini mart, you didn't necessarily need to do a partnership, because here's what's going to happen now. With this partnership registration, you now have tied yourself up with with three tax returns. I was being
Mm.
specific with the tax
Right.
situation at the time, and I said you have to file a tax return for the partnership, and then you have to file individual tax returns for the two partners. Whereas if you had done maybe a sole trader,
Mm-hmm.
would have just been one, you, or even if you had done a company, even if you had incorporated the shop, it would have just been one return,
Right.
right? So just a simple thing like that, understanding what is required. I
Mm-hmm.
think I think it's an exercise that should be done at the start, because you could bounce your head.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could bounce your head.
So I will say this, right? Um, so just for full disclosure, that I have two companies. Well, I have three companies technically. So co-founder would say with Jared on sales of profession, or OPAAT-SWY, which is the main one, the second one right now. But just to let you all know, because everyone in the beginning used to say, well, you have to open a business, you have to go and create a business account. I actually have another limited liability company that I've done no business with. I've done nothing with it, and I'm sure that's over 10 years old, Andrea. All right. However, I have gotten like letters from BIR or whoever it is. Was it BIR? Because I do have a BIR thing
I
from them.
think it was legal affairs or something
Legal
like that.
affairs, right? Letting me know that I didn't submit annual returns. And I was saying, well, yeah, but I do no business. So what I have to submit annual returns for? Like I haven't been
Correct.
trading and that type of stuff, right? It's not only until I met you. As a matter of fact, wait, it wasn't until I got when I read the letter properly, just to say it like that, right? And then when from meeting you, I realized that there were some penalties to be applied if I did not submit the annual return. So I just want to ask you this now when it comes, because again, if I could do it, I'm pretty sure other people who may not be aware, just thinking, well, just like me, well, listen, I haven't done any, yes, I have this company, I haven't done anything with it. Yes, it's
Mm-hmm.
registered. Let's say you don't have any BIR for now. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just registered as a LTD, but there's still an expectation from the government that
Yes.
you do something. What will that?
Mhm.
What is that?
Just to file, so as a limited liability, it would be to file at least the annual returns every year.
Right, right.
And now, well, there was a new piece of legislation about 2 years ago with the beneficial ownership. You now have that. I think that has an annual element to it as
Mm,
well. And
mm,
the thing about this type of compliance, and even with BIR as well, compliance sometimes doesn't need your profit or need your trade
mm,
to not be required. So,
right,
so first of all, legal affairs have nothing to do with money. You could have sold plenty, sold a little bit, not sell, made a loss. Once you exist
right.
as a LTD, once you exist, right? Same thing with BIR.
Mm,
Once you exist, right? And you have not officially said, hey, I have closed this company,
right,
then you need to be filing the necessary documentation
right,
until you cease to exist.
right.
Because remember, you are a legal entity, yeah?
Yeah. Ah, yeah, because you know this limited liability company, right?
Correct. Correct.
So what I want to touch on too, because again, I would like to think, is it that there, because of how you open the business, there are different types of compliance requirements every year? So
Mm-hmm.
based upon the type of, so like let's say you're a
Yeah.
sole trader,
So
a partnership, etc. The
the sole
compliance
trader,
varies,
if you look at it on a spectrum, sole trader is always the easiest,
right?
and LTD is always the hardest,
Okay,
the one that requires the most work. And
right.
partnership somewhere in the middle, because partnership could go either way. You could
Mm-hmm.
have a limited liability partnership, which kind of looks like a LTD, or
Right,
you could have a partnership unlimited, which kind of is just two sole traders.
right.
So, but they both, all three,
Mm-hmm.
come with its attendant requirements,
Right,
right? But sole trader is always the easiest, right? The easiest one to start, easiest one to finish. In terms of ending, if you decided you want to stop,
mm-hmm.
and it's the easiest one to maintain, right?
Right,
Because you and the business are one and the same. The thing about compliance with a limited liability company is that you've created a separate legal entity in the eyes of the law that has to report on its own,
mm,
right? When
right.
you're a sole trader, which is what when I explained to you, when you explained to me what you were doing with your business at the time, I was like, well, you didn't need a company,
A
right?
limited liability,
You didn't need a limited, you didn't need
right?
OPAAT limited, you just needed Lynn and Bradford Trading as OPAAT-SWY,
Mm.
right? Until you were ready
To
to,
get to that point,
to get
right,
to that
right, right.
point, right? Which is the same thing like me. I am ATR Business Solutions. I'm a sole trader.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm ready to take that step, I'll incorporate and I'll
Right.
do all the necessary. But for now, it's working. It's
Mm-hmm.
achieving what I want to achieve,
Right.
right? Which is to be in business legitimately and be
Mm-hmm.
able to earn money legitimately.
Right.
If you could achieve it with something less taxing and
Right.
harassing,
Than
who would,
having, because here's the thing, and the thing is, from based upon the last point that you mentioned there, you still have the ability of, because you still have your own separate business account, so it's not like you're
correct?
mixing up your money.
You
So
can
you still have your
exactly.
ATR business account
Yes,
for
I
your
do.
money to handle your monies and
Correct.
transactions, as opposed to your personal. It's just that
Correct.
from the business legal entity as to what you registered with the government,
Yeah.
this is what you have now is like, it suits where you're starting now in your business, and as you begin to grow, that's what you're saying, is that, so that's where maybe most people should be starting, because as I say, all I knew before, until I met you, was hey, you had to open a company, and when people say, well, when you go to register a company, everything is limited liability, limited liability, limited liability. So I never
No.
thought about sole trader.
Yeah. And
So that, sorry, you were going to make a point.
no, I was just saying that it's sad because people end up in situations like yourself, you ended up in a kind of situation where it's like you kind of went, oh, I kind of missed you literally went, oh, I kind of missed the boat because you kind of missed out on some tax stuff. Remember, I
Yeah,
told you you weren't able to your time had passed because there are certain things in the tax
yeah, yeah, yeah.
regime that was, once the first 3 years of a business and that kind of thing, and
Hmm.
you had lost out on it because you
Right.
spent so much time being inactive.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah.
something when I speak, if once I get to consult with people before they register, these are the
Hmm.
questions that I ask.
Right.
Um, what is it that you want to achieve? And if somebody say, well, I now start for the first time, okay, you need any kind of capital? No. Is you alone? Yeah. Well, okay. Why you incorporating a business
Mm.
and putting somebody on as a director just because?
Yeah. So I listen to me, guys. I wouldn't like to tell you all. When I heard that, I was like, "What?" Because it's a lot. It's a lot of headache, right?
It
Because get
is.
this, and Andre, you can correct me if I'm wrong. If you do not file, you have to pay. I think it's $300 every day for the days that you miss.
Yes, I think that is the legal affairs one, I think. Yes.
Yeah, right. So
Yeah.
that's $300 every day as a penalty for the days that you miss. How much does it cost to file?
$40.
So $40 as opposed to
Right?
your $300. So let's just say you have filed, guys. So now that we understand, so let's kind of move it up a different level. So now that we understand, okay, for those of you all who might be listening to this, who would be listening to this now or later on, and you're thinking about starting a business, or you know somebody who's starting a business, have them consult with someone. My main person here, my point of contact here is Andrea. That's why I have her on the platform, is because she to me is the best person, and ATR are the best people to consult to guide you as to what type of accounts, what type of business you should be opening based upon where you are starting right now. Right? So let's just say now you have started,
Mm-hmm.
right? You have gone ahead and
Yeah.
you already have it. You're like me, you made that mistake and stuff now, right? Um, what are some of the things that we need to pay attention to, because there's a let's say if it is that we don't file outside of a penalty, you tend to lose. Like the reason why compliance is so important for for those of us now who have legitimate LLCs or LTDs, right? If it is that you're not compliant,
Mm-hmm.
you stand to lose out in a number of different ways. You want to give us a couple examples as it relates to those, or
So,
just let me make one plug here. So we have Abraham Sutherland saying, "I appreciate this info, and we appreciate you, Abraham, for joining and staying with us." And we also have Stefan Holder, right? Stefan Holder saying, he did not know this, right? So he's actually saying that is a good tip, right? And of course, Abraham again is saying, "I've definitely made some of these mistakes before." So yeah, you know. So thanks a lot, as it relates to sharing where you would have made some of those mistakes, and we do hope that any more information that comes out of this can help you guys kind of course correct the things that from based upon where you are right now. So the question, Andrea, was, okay, so you do have a LLC, whether you've made a mistake or it was legitimate, this is the direction that
Here,
you want to go.
here we are.
Right. So
Here
here
we
we
are.
are, right?
Right.
Um, we were looking at something as it relates to now making sure that you are compliant outside of just paying a penalty, that we things
That you could
being
lose out on.
compliant, you could lose out on, or you could
Yeah.
be however you treat it, you can be positive or negative on. What was that we
So
were talking about?
yeah, so the penalties are a given, right? So
Hmm.
each regulatory body have their penalties, so that's a given that you will have that. Outside of that, you may lose out on business opportunities, right? So
Mm,
if you look at the newspaper,
right.
just in the media, you would see persons, if you're familiar with something called a tender, right?
Can I bring up the example now?
You can bring up the example.
Sure. We're going to bring up an
So
example now for you guys to follow.
this one is, so it's two things. So this isn't the tender, but I'll use this one first. So this was an ad that was being put out, I think, by Bureau of Standards, and zoom out a little bit, right? And it was a pre-qualification. It was a notice to pre-qualify suppliers and contractors, right? And what this means is that they want to do business with compliant businesses and businesses that have their stuff in order. And they're saying here, what? Get pre-qualified with us. So when we have business, this is the pool of people that we're going to contact, and
Mm,
you will be eligible to do business with us. This is coming out from the legislation that is yet to be proclaimed, the new procurement legislation that is all up in the parliament these days.
right.
Hasn't been proclaimed as yet, but as you can see, entities are getting ready, and they are, putting their stuff out there because and TTPS, this is the Bureau of Standards, this will be considered government or state entity, that is. And they're issuing their call for, okay, come and get pre-qualified with us. And if you notice, well, I had circle consultancies because I had circled this for you,
Hmm.
right? Because I was saying, you could be somebody, you could get pre-qualified, and if they want to do training, sales training, or any customer service or whatever, you would be inside of there. So look at the broad, but what I want to highlight is look at the list. They're like
Yeah.
15,
Things on it. Yeah.
different types. You as a business owner, you must fall in one of those categories,
Right.
right? And what they're saying here is, if you don't meet their pre-qualification, then you won't be open to do business with them.
But can I just say specifically that one of the pre-qualification requirements, I can't remember if it's on this one, but I've seen it in in other requests like these, is that you have to submit your annual returns for a particular period of time.
Yeah, yeah. You have to
So
submit things like annual returns. You have to submit things like financial statements, whether be audited or otherwise. But you have to submit your registration documents, meaning like
mhm,
your PIR and your NIS and those type of things, right? Making sure you have to get a clear. Usually have to get a clearance letter, a tax clearance letter
right.
that basically says to the entity, that basically says to everybody, oh, this person is up to date, they're not
Yes.
a bad, they are compliant, these type of things. So if you have not done these things before, by the time this comes out, right, scroll along, I think it had a time period that
Hmm.
they were saying how long they were going to accept it for, right?
This was
Pre-qual,
um,
it had a
this
date, right?
was yeah, the
This was
7th of
September.
September.
Right. This was 7th of September. And I think at the time when I gave you this was a date, this was sometime in August.
August,
But I
yes.
remember thinking, I was like, okay, it's a couple of weeks that it was open for. So picture you see this and you don't have your stuff in order. How are you going to get compliant in 2 to 3 weeks?
Yeah.
Right? You're going to have to do a set of backfilling, as I call it. right? Now trying to go and file your things to get it up to date, and you might have to go and pay some outstanding tax stuff in order to get the tax clearance. And mind you, you may have to pay a professional like myself to help. And
Mm.
obviously, in a case like this, this is not regular filing, right?
Right.
So what do you think that entails? That entails additional cost,
Yes.
right? All because it wasn't done in a time frame that it should have been done by,
Mm.
how much ever times before the year before, whatever the case may be. So this is a clear example of not having your stuff in
In
order
order.
can cost you, right? Another example, because I mean, some people might be watching and saying, well, I'm not that big, I'm not big to do those things yet. No problem. Okay, you may not feel that you may say, well, no, I don't really feel I want to do a prequel. That's okay, no problem. Think about the other day with COVID. The government issued grants. Netco was issuing grants and whatnot through the government. Sorry, the government was issuing it through Netco and for relief. And do you know what happened? The money was sitting down there because Netco had to beg people to go and get their documents, to go
Mm.
and get registered.
Hmm.
So money was there, and I remember it was, and I'm not making this up, it was an article in the newspaper. I remember seeing it, and they were saying that businesses were not registered. So people now had to go and get registered,
Mm.
right? To be able to apply for the grant. I mean,
Right.
you're losing out. It's
Yeah.
that's money on the table, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's important. So that's, and I think I had said this before on another video. Compliance is nothing until you need it, right? That's because when you don't need it, it's fine. No,
Mm-hmm.
no, it's fine. Yeah, yeah, don't think. But when something happens and then you need it, you know, it becomes a thing, right? So it's one of those things like, like security in a building, right? You might see it as money. You might see the God, I had to pay the security guard. What he doing whole day, right? What the security guard doing whole day? But bet your bottom dollar, if somebody was to break in and you didn't have the security guard, would you feel it then? So I like to use those type of analogies, right?
Right.
That because I know it could be, people could say, oh gosh, why I need to do this, and the money, because of course you're gonna have to pay somebody to help keep you compliant. You have to pay to file this and do this and that and the other, right? But compliance is nothing until you need it, right? And those two examples I give there, that's like money on the table,
Right.
basically, because
We have. Go ahead.
no,
You.
because I'm saying, a business opportunity is there in the first instance. You're walking away from an opportunity for business, and in the second instance, you're walking away from money. Suppose you doing a business. Suppose you have this awesome business, you're creating something, and the government has a grant for it, right? The government says, you know what, this we want to foster this type of business, and that's what they're doing a lot. Is seeing things popping up here and there with, trying to support small business.
Yeah.
Why would you not put yourself in place to get it?
Yeah.
You
Correct.
know?
And I see Brent is here. Brent here is saying also compliance is like an insurance policy. All right.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't need it. You don't know you need it until you need it. That kind of thing.
Until
So
you need it,
yeah.
and then at
And
that point, it's difficult to fix.
no, what's interesting here with this, right? So thanks for that contribution as well, Brent. What's interesting with that too is that you guys may be thinking, well, mostly government entities um, would normally be asking for these things, or
Nope.
state. I can tell you that I encountered a private
Nope.
organization earlier this year. Private, I mean private. They actually asked
Yes.
vendors to
Yes.
submit because they wanted to make sure that, okay, if it is that we are paying these folks to come
Correct.
to our organization to do work with our teams, we want to make sure that we are paying somebody who's upstanding and paying their
Correct.
taxes and this. So
Businesses want to do business with other
we're good.
businesses
Correct.
who are good and compliant, right?
Correct. Yeah.
You know, and the thing about it is, I had when this whole because this procurement training, this procurement legislation has been on the board for a while, right?
Hmm.
I remember going to training on it. Was maybe about before COVID,
Hmm.
life before COVID, right?
Right.
And the head of the procurement board said in one of his comments when the question was asked, about it's for government and whatnot, and he said no, he said he's like, this is a best practice document,
Hmm.
He's like, a private company, because the procurement legislation speaks to government entities, yes.
Right.
But if you look at it, it is a best practice document. So a private entity could say, you know what, what they ask, the government asking for that, we'll ask for that too.
Right. So it's just as you say. So it's a best practice. So organizations will be looking to see. Well, you know what?
Yeah,
If that's
I
being
want to,
asked there, we want to incorporate
So
that into our
yeah, so
process
don't
as
sit
well.
and say, well, that's all right. I just wouldn't do business with the government.
Hmm.
Okay,
Hmm.
bet your bottom dollar, I could tell you. You see the big corporate companies,
Hmm.
the conglomerates that we have.
Yeah.
Remember, they are the ones that lead in terms of best practice and good corporate governance and
Yes.
examples
Hmm.
and stuff, right? And remember, as a conglomerate, right, their policies filter all the way down to each company. Yeah. So you
Right.
may not be you might be dealing with a small company, let's say you deal with a medium-sized company, and you don't even realize who they're part of. And they turn around
Hmm.
and tell you, oh, well, we need to get this, this, and this. And well, how we need that? Well, head office requires it because it's part
Mm.
of our, you
Yeah.
know, and well, you because I think that was the case that you're talking about.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
were doing
I'm
something for a conglomerate,
for our conglomerates.
and
Yeah.
they told you,
It's a
they said
requirement. Yeah.
this was the requirement, and you
This
had
is
to
the
produce
requirement.
it. And I'm telling you, I'm seeing it. They asking for, and I would say simple things. They're asking for things like your annual returns. When the
Hmm.
tax parents, well,
Yeah.
they can't ask you. I don't think they could ask you for your tax return per se, but they could ask you for the tax clearance, because
To
the
the
tax
tax
clearance will
clearance. Yeah.
say that this person is up to date, this company is up to date, and that type of
And
thing,
that type
right?
of stuff. Yeah. And I'll tell you what they did. Now, even though at the time, think at the time we were going through the process of the BIR or whatever it was,
Yes,
um, also we didn't have
you
anything that
didn't.
was filed for that for whatever
Correct.
that. What they did accept though, they did accept the annual returns.
Yeah.
So they at least wanted to know that I was spending my $40 to file to say I am in good standards. Because again,
Yeah.
here's the reason why we're bringing that up, guys. It's not just a matter of just being compliant. We all want our businesses to grow. We all like to come out and celebrate. Hey, we close this deal, yada yada yada. But in business, a big part of business is compliance. That is
Yeah.
something that I learned while I was at Massey in the corporate space, submitting all of these tenders and stuff like that. Whether it was an open RFQ from another private organization or a government tender,
Yep.
these are the things that they were asking for. And based upon what your business is and how is it that you would like to grow, these are the things that you may encounter at some
Yeah.
point in time, and you want to make sure that you are on the right side of that, not on the wrong side, because as
Correct.
Andrea would have explained, there's a cost. It could be a little bit overwhelming too, because you may now be asked for stuff that you never knew that you needed. You understand?
Yeah.
And um and it will feel kind of bad that you missed out. Let's say, let me put it like this: you could be the best person to deliver on this service, and it could be a really good contract,
Yep.
but you'd lose it because you don't have
Yeah.
the people working on it.
Yeah.
That is really the point I want to get
Yep.
across with this right now.
Because I could tell you, if you don't submit those documents, they're not even going to look at your technical proposal. They're
Right.
not even going to look
Hmm.
at some of these documents, depending on how they structure their RFP.
Right.
Some
That's
of
one of
these
the first things
documents
to look at.
and they're automatic fail. Some
Yeah.
of them they don't even, depending on how stringent they are, they won't even ask you to come back and provide it a second time.
Wow.
They will say, "Oh, it's not there, non-responsive,"
Hmm.
and
And
they
you
don't.
disqualify just like that.
You disqualified from that, because some of these documents, the way they are grouped, they call group. They might turn around and say, "Here, what if you can't produce that? I not even come back to ask you." You understand? It's not
Yeah.
at that point. It's not even let me get some clarification. Nothing to clarify. Is either you register,
Yes, you don't hear it, not there. Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Is either there, and that's the thing. Those documents tend to be like that. It
Mm-hmm.
tends. It's not a subjective thing. It's a yes or no. It's either you
Right,
have it or you don't.
right,
And if if you don't have it, I'm sorry. They move on to the next. They
right.
move on to the next person, and that nice document never gets read.
Yeah. And so, as I say, it's for those of us. So again, the reason why Andrea and I felt it was important to have this conversation with you all is because of the fact that I have seen. I've seen it since I started in 2018. There was a PTSD thing that came up a while ago, and when it came up, some of the requirements were annual returns. Guess what? I had just started, so thankfully I didn't have any, but I decided to not go that route into like bidding for that thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But since 2018, I've been seeing that coming up
Yes.
from different. I've seen it come up with private. I've seen it come up with government.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you are, let's say, not trading, right? Make sure, guys, and file. So you have because you have the good and the bad. You have the bad is that you'll get a penalty from the government because you're
Yeah.
not filing your stuff, right? Even if you're not trading, make sure and file whether you're a sole trader or otherwise. And on the other side, you might just be hurting your own self from opportunities that you know you could win. And that's the
Correct.
worst. That's the worst part of it. You know you have the
Yeah.
thing, but we were just
Yeah.
uncompliant, or we were
And
delinquent,
you just
or you're
yeah.
just ignorant, and you lose.
And the thing about it is what I would want to stress is that it's not it can feel overwhelming, yes, but there are simple tools and methods that you could use to incorporate compliance into the structure of your business and into the running of your business. If
Mm,
you treat it as a separate animal and a separate beast, it will always be this beast. It
right.
will always be this big scary monster under the bed,
Mm-hmm.
right? But if you take your time to understand, well, what is it that we need to do, and incorporate that into the running of your business, into your various timetables, when you look, your schedules of things, and you know it will get done. So it won't be this thing where at the end of it, oh my god, we have to do this. No, if little by little
Right.
every month you're doing, you're taking care to record your transactions, or you're taking care to what you have to do. By the time the end of the year comes, tax return and stuff should be easy, because
Yeah.
by that time you would have done your necessary record keeping, you kept your schedules going, so you kept rolling over. So by the time the year end come, okay, we're in pretty good state. Most of the stuff, 90% of it is there. It's just some tweaking to talk to the accountant about. The, but it won't be, oh gosh, I don't have no records.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and then we're trying to figure out, well, what happened in January? And then I'm now going through. So you remember that it's in February. I'm not seeing anything on February 16th. We don't have any receipts for that day. And this is now February of the next year, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because we're trying to file a tax return. So February of next year, I'm asking you for some transaction that we can't find.
Mm,
When
yeah.
if you had if you had set up a structure or a system, we would have known for sure. You would have been able to say, oh no, yes, that day we were closed, or
Mm,
that day my system went down. Here's the manual book. I had to use a manual receipt here.
right. Right.
Yeah, simple things like
So
that.
before we wrap up, guys, let us know. You could drop some hearts or give us some additional feedback as to if you guys felt that this was a valuable enough conversation for you all, that you all were able to take some stuff away or consider a few things about your business. As I said, I'll be bringing it from on two sides. Andrea being the subject matter expert, and letting you know that is my accountant. Whatever I want, if I need to talk about something, an opportunity, I call and I say, Andrea, here's the case, XYZ. And that's why it's so important to have um, a qualified and competent accountant in your business, someone who can help you strategically grow and build your business, because that's what I'm looking for, right? I'm not just looking for somebody to do my books. I'm
Correct.
looking for somebody who can help me, because those are the type of conversations I've had
That's
with
what we
Andrea.
do.
If you all go back and look at the other lives we've done, it's all along the lines of, why we need to have certain things from on the accounting side, because finance can help me get on the right side for this type of account or and stuff like that. So, but at the end of the day, it's really towards helping you all as entrepreneurs grow and build and put yourself in the best possible position. That's why I said it's not sexy. It's not,
No.
it's not the
Yeah,
social media.
yeah,
It's not,
exactly.
it's not the
It's
coming out
not
there and
glamorous.
no,
It's
no,
not
no, 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 no.
glamorous. It's
You know,
anything far from. It's not glamorous. People don't, and people take a very hands-off approach. Like, oh my God,
yeah,
and like I say, they treat it like a monster under the bed,
yeah,
and
yeah,
they
yeah.
don't want to touch it. But
The sweep it onto the carpet. You have the
yeah,
big
like
bump in the carpet of dust, but you're not even dealing with,
you don't even
it's
want to
there,
you don't
but you
dare
don't want to deal with
you
it.
don't want to
Yeah,
deal with it, and then I don't know. Once a year, you remove the carpet, time to file the thing, and now it's this big mess to
yeah,
untangle. It's
yeah,
a big mess to untangle and whatnot. So, um, I always say, just a little bit could go a long way. Yeah.
yeah. So at the end of the day, too, guys, I mean, I just want to say again, if you have any particular questions that you think you want to ask now, feel free to ask those questions now. I think Alison has a question coming in as it relates to that. Oh no, actually, she has a point coming in. So she said, the information was really very relevant. Thank you for taking the time to share. All right, we appreciate that, and we appreciate you. Just of course, always plugging in Alison. Alison is one of our
Yes. She's
consistent
she's
attendees anytime we have a
Alicon
Alicon.
virtual.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but at the end of the day, as I say, the goal as it relates to our business, excuse me, is you don't want to be doing all the good hard work, all the nice promotional stuff and the social selling, and you get the opportunity now. You get
Yeah.
it did exactly what you were supposed to do, but you lose the opportunity because you're not compliant.
You're not. Yeah.
And that's the back end side of the business that we all don't like, but it's that's the business side of things.
Yeah, it's really the ugly side of business.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is, I mean, you as a business owner, you don't have to know it, but just make sure somebody on your team is charged with that response. I'm not saying, because I mean, as entrepreneurs, oh my God, we have so many things going on, right?
Hmm.
As a solopreneur, especially, you being chief cook and bottle washer, right? Everything. I mean, even if you say, listen, I don't necessarily know much about this, but I've placed it in the hands of this person who can help manage this for me, that is the responsible thing to do, right?
Right.
You don't have to know it all, because you can't. And as a business, and that's the only way your business could grow, right? When you start to bring people on and that type of thing. If it is you don't want to take this on yourself, or you don't have the ability to learn all the nitty gritty, you don't have to. But make sure and either assign it to a member of your team, or bring in an expert to say, hey, I need you to manage this for me. Tell me what I need to do. Um, Tell me what I need to file, and make
Hmm.
sure that, I have to do those things. Yeah.
Alison is asking, she is
What do
asking,
you have
as
to
a sole
submit?
trader, what do you have to submit to legal affairs?
Actually nothing. That is why it's the easiest of all registrations. You
Hmm.
register, you do your registration as a sole trader, and then thereafter there isn't anything, because again, you and the business are one and the same in the
Hmm.
legal framework. So there's no need for your business to file a separate document. Because
Right.
even when it comes to your taxes, you file it under your personal tax, the sole trader business. It's filed
Hmm.
under your name and everything. And you just put
Right.
in, you know. So no, there's nothing outside of the registration. There's nothing that I'm aware of that needs to be filed.
All right. So thank you very much for that question, Alison, and thank you very much for that response, Andrea. So we talk all this compliance stuff, right? I think, as you mentioned to me earlier, the government is offering a nice something nice. What is that? What is happening right now, Andrea, as it
What
relates
is
to
what is
compliance?
happening right now in the field of compliance is the government has extended
Hmm.
its amnesty. So it had an amnesty that started in July and it ended. The original end date was Friday. Tax amnesty to file all taxes, whether it be personal, corporate, business levy, green fund, for the last 5 or 6 years. right? So if you never filed taxes before, you could have got on board and gotten yourself up to date. And then that was ending on Friday. They extended it further to October 1st, which is the rest of
Mm,
September. So again,
right.
file the taxes, and pay the amount that is owed. Because right now, if you owed something from 2015 or 2016, you would have had interest and penalty on that. They will
Mm.
just, yeah,
You have interest too?
yes.
So on the penalty, there's an
So sorry, the
interest?
penalty, the penalty is for not filing, and the interest is for non-payment.
Oh, God. Okay.
So yeah, so if you had LLC tax
Yes.
return that you did not, so let's use the example that you started off with, right, which is what I
Mm,
saw commonly happen in my
right.
consultations. Um, I have the business, but I wasn't operating at that time, a LLC, right, a
Mm-hmm.
limited liability company. I didn't operate in 2015, 2016, 2017, so I didn't file anything. Yeah, based on that, I say, okay. So I started to trade in 18 and 19, and that's the ones I want to do. No, you have to do 15 and 16 and 17. But I didn't trade.
Mm,
No, you have a penalty to pay because you did not file the tax return.
wow.
And guess what that penalty is? $1,000 every 6 months.
Whoa. Okay.
So do we need to do the maths? I think no. Right?
Right.
And you get the maths, right? That is on a nil return, eh?
And a nil return. Wow. So you ain't do no business, but you have
With your
money to
business.
pay.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I say, let's make sure. Listen, I want everybody's business to succeed. So let's make sure that we get on the right side of these things.
Yeah.
As I
So
say, it's
tax
on the back
amnesty.
end, but
So
yeah.
yes, so the tax amnesty is on. Get all your taxes filed. Get all your stuff paid up without any. And so what they will do, they'll waive the interest and the penalty. So if you didn't file the return, that $1,000 penalty will go away. If you owed any taxes, you just have to pay the principal amount. No interest will
Mm,
accrue. So that's going on until the 1st of October. There
right.
is still a penalty. An amnesty, sorry. I think legal affairs still has their zone. It's not really, I don't really see it advertising much, but I know I still see the sign up when I go.
Okay.
They had kept extending theirs, these annual returns and whatnot. I think they have extended to the 31st of December. So they
Okay.
also have a level of amnesty as well, but they have
Mm-hmm.
also a lot of their stuff they've also converted to online.
Online. All right. Cool.
Yeah.
That's good.
So it's good to be aware. So those are the two entities that I would say all entrepreneurs need to look into,
Mm-hmm.
because that will apply no matter what type of business.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah, whether
So,
it's food, whatever. Yeah.
mhm. So Andrea, you have given at least again, you've always given me reassurance based upon the things that I've been doing. Right. So like, I'm happy to know that even for me, I'm on the good side of things. Right. What I want to do, I want to ask you to just, if you can let folks know how they can get in contact with you, what are some of the channels that they need to follow, and or just like, because if anyone sees this and they want to maybe ask a couple of questions, um, how is it that they can go about getting in contact with you?
Well, so we're on the LinkedIn platform. So I am on LinkedIn under my name, Andrea Ragoo. On Facebook and Instagram, I'm under my business name, ATR Business Solutions. You can
Mhm.
message me on either of those, on any one of those three platforms, and you'll get on to me there. Website soon to come, hopefully.
All right. So have a good Tuesday night, folks. As I say, we want to get on the right side of we want to get on the right side of compliance. Not just because on the penalty side, but we don't want to
Yeah,
miss out on opportunities. We have some really good talent here. I mean, I see you guys on the social media platforms. I see the things that you all share. But let's not do all that hard work and then we lose it
correct.
because our back end paperwork is a mess. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So that is us for tonight. Andrea, thank you again for coming on. We
Thank
are going
you
to be
for
back.
having me.
We're going to be back in next 2 to 3 weeks, guys.
Yeah.
If you have a topic that you want to ask, you want questions you want to ask, either to Andrea through me or directly to Andrea, we bring it forward as a topic. Let us know. As I say, if it's it's not a very sexy topic, I'm pretty sure Andrea and I will be willing to tackle it.
Wow.
All right. All right,
All
folks.
right. Bye,
Take
guys.
care. Have a good night. Peace.
Good night.